My whole life they didn't want me
Taste the
to do shit. You know
motherfucking
what I
freedom.
mean?
You know what I'm
Saying
saying?
what you gonna do, where
Get
you
kind
gonna
of
go,
crazy sometimes, you know what I'm
how you
saying? You
gonna
just
make
got
some
shit out
money.
here
You
push, you know what I'm saying?
know?
Me, the way I work is I keep operating because I never fail, you know what I'm saying? I fall, I pick myself back up, I keep going, you know what I'm saying? I don't give a fuck what happens, you know?
King's
You
Logic,
can't take me
Female
down.
D.
There's no force in
There you
this
go,
world that
Juan.
can fucking cancel my
What's going
energy.
up?
Fuck it,
Get
you
down
know?
with
Let's
it.
go.
The key, what? I'm back. Lace the track.
Already twisted, no need to introduce. Get lifted one line. Political rap, milk, killing cancer like pills. Pop the general, it's arsenic. Retarded to the flame. Go against the grain, feel the same numb pain. Fuck shots, grab the bottle. Getting hollow, run for cover like the day after tomorrow. You can say it's chill, life's cold, but keep it real. Undercover, lost the battle, but still won the war. Dark side of the force, mind trick, transform. Jedi John Connor, doing what you wanna. Puffin' nails, hydroponics, getting lost in the madness. Sustained at the level that you practice. On my own planet while I bring it back to Earth. Crashing like a comet and I'm coming feet first. Fuck that, already spent and it ain't no apple pie. Try to tell the truth when you living in a
Hey,
lie.
what's up? What's up? Welcome back to Tills from the Chris-Mucosal Melanoma Survivor podcast. Without further ado, let's get into part 2 with my guest, Mr. Mike Walker. Let's go.
It doesn't matter. It'll come to me in a second. But I think the some people are trapped by society, so they have to beat that trap before they can get to a place to mentally see the things they need to do to be healthy and successful. And that's that's one of the hard parts about life, I guess.
So, like the believe factor. You ever hear what the believe factor is? You know what I mean? Have you heard like that?
Like manifesting from belief kind of thing, or
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess. So like I literally, so I got a couple examples. Well, and the first one is, getting, beating the cancer, you know what I'm saying? Beating, an unbeatable, a total odds against me kind of a terminal thing. It was like, I didn't know how, but I just believed I was going to do it, and straight up, like, call it what you want, but that's what I did. And I put all my energy into that. And so, and then it's the same kind of thing of what I'm trying to do right now. And it was, when throughout the first 2.5 years after I got out of the hospital, from in the beginning of, 2020, I when I had switched from one employer to the next. I mean, I remember telling myself, because during that time frame was when, 2021 was when I started really, started to look into my actual cancer history. That's when I started reading my old scans and stuff. That's when I started to write out my story, so and stuff like that, and I started remembering everything and going into things like that. And I started doing like, being a part of support groups and doing Zoom calls and all of that. Just really started to wake up a lot of things that were kind of dormant, that I had pushed aside or, suppressed, you know what I mean? Like I didn't even deal with and everything. And it was like, boom, so it was, I said myself, I'm going to give myself, like a goal. And it was like, I gave myself like a 5-year plan, you know what I mean? It was like, I was gonna be turning 40, I think, like the following, thing. And it was like, okay, by the time I'm 45, like here's the goal, you know what I'm saying? Like, because there was, I imagined, just continuing to go to work. And one of the main things was I was, always just moving around and, for the majority of the part, my old job and this and that, but I was, gone from the house, but from the moment I got home every day, if I didn't like eat and shower, with like pretty quickly, and if I just sat down and chilled and got too comfortable, then, I would just, my energy would just, it would finally like, once my body like was like recognize that,
crash.
okay, it's time to rest. It was like, there's no like rest a little bit and you get back up, it was like, it was done. And so, but throughout the week, and then a lot of times I wouldn't eat and I wouldn't shower. I would just roll out into the next morning. I would just continue, and then just go
And that's
again.
one of those things. It's like, it's so
And by the
weird that
weekend, I
people
wouldn't do anything because I was so
that
tired trying to rest from the week. But not only that, but my metabolism's thrown off. My sleep schedule, just my energy. Like I didn't I wasn't recognizing or remembering all the treatment that I had went through or the beat up my body had dealt with. I mean, there was
I
no
think
like no book on that.
one of the biggest benefits that comes from you discussing your journey and everything isn't so much revealing to the world that there's a new technology on the way that's going to be amazing and things like that once it gets perfected, but showing where the holes exist in this thing, meaning the
Well, the
biggest one.
recovery of it, you know, it's
The
like if you make
recovery
it
is
to
the
this
biggest
and you
hole.
survive,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
here,
no
you
one
know,
ever thinks that
what's
far about it. Yeah,
well, yeah,
no one, there's no real thought put into, oh, well, what happens now? You know,
what does recovery mean? You know what I'm saying?
exactly. And not only that, I think
what does
clearly
that
your
look like?
experience has highlighted that people don't have their minds wrapped around trauma of pain, like the trauma you experienced from literally having your body riddled to shreds by something. You know, and if that's not in someone, no one knows how that. People know what it's like to get their finger pricked. You can share that, and people can empathize. But if someone's not had their body riddled from the inside out, from head to toe, like you did,
Well, and that's
no
the
one
thing.
understands that.
You know,
And I think people need to wrap their head around that. That when someone's recovering, like
that's
it
a
is a
great point.
lifelong thing.
A
It's a
lot of
lifelong
stage
thing. 'Cause
four.
someone
a
looks
lot of
at you,
stage
they're
4
like,
people.
"Oh, they're gonna look at you and think, oh, you're a winner, you're invincible, you're Superman." It's like, hold on. I did accomplish a super remarkable physical feat by defeating this thing, but it did not. It had its cost. You know what I mean? So clearly, it had its cost. So, you know, colleagues and friends and stuff, people need to understand that stuff. That the fact that you're getting back and doing anything after something like that is basic. That didn't happen before on the planet Earth. You know what I mean? Prior to this, you know, even as much as a decade ago, that wasn't really happening to people. You know, like so. And I feel it's weird to say, but I feel fortunate to know your story because I know now to like if someone's going through that recovery, I know the battle isn't over when the doctors say, "All right, the cancer's gone." You know what I mean? Or it's beat. You know, it's put back to where it needs to be. Like that's not the end of the story.
Well, I mean, ultimately, you know, it's not initially this treatment's gonna roll out and just it's gonna take us a minute for it to go to more locations and have more proper certified doctors and nurses because there's that along with having the tumor extraction, there's like a 2-week or so actual hospital stay for the patient, on average, what I'm saying, in terms of the week of chemo depletion and the till, this and that. And so the monitoring of that patient, in terms of all the vitals and everything, because you're bringing them down.
Let me ask you: is a chemo treatment still necessary with the TIL?
Like, yeah, you have. Well, yeah, because you have to bring your white cell count down to 0.
You have to neutralize.
You have to take your immune system and you have to kill your immune system and bring it down to like a blank slate. So
you have to render it inert.
Yeah. So I mean, that's how you do it. And then when they give you the TIL, which is your TIL back to you, and then they give you the IL-2 infusions. You know what I'm saying?
But the idea is that you should only have to do the chemo once, right? With
well, yeah, but you spend a week. So yeah, I think it's like 5 days of it's literally like 5 days of chemo where like each day, they do.
But would you call the 5 days one treatment or each day one treatment?
No, I called the entire process because they just spread it out over 5 days while you're in the thing. Because
got you. Okay.
Because they take your immune system, no matter where it's at, and they bring it down to a blank slate. They kill it. So you have to, what I'm saying?
They're
it might not take 5 days for all people. It depends. I mean, I don't know, but like they want to make sure they kind of do it gradually because everything's very
that's
controlled.
like falling.
It's super toxic.
You can't push your body off a cliff like that. You got to work your body down. Yeah.
Dude, you got to be mega. I mean, so, I already had a port in my body, but I did have a PICC line, you know what I mean? And everything. And, I remember the lady coming through and helping me, she would bring in the warm swabby things and stuff and help clean it off and everything. And so, but, you spend 2 weeks in there, they kind of have these like, showers kind of in there, but I remember thinking it was like, man, I didn't have the energy to really do anything, so it was always like, but it felt good, you know, to kind of get cleaned off and everything. But, you know, I had like my PICC line and my port thing, and I had the IV connected, you know, so every time I had to go to the bathroom and shower, you know, like you go for walks down the hall and stuff or whatever, but you're living in a
man, I
hospital
remember
for 2 weeks.
I remember seeing some of those pictures of you and just being fucking sad. Like, just, you know, especially like on social media. I just remember being fucking sad. Like, like I don't even know what to say. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
kind of thing.
I wasn't active. That's why my family created my Warriors for Chris page, because throughout the process, you know, I wasn't documenting it myself. I wasn't being active in all that. I was so concentrated.
Understandably
on just trying
so.
And so, I mean, the people that were around me, like, you know, all the time, you know, which was my immediate, you know, family, my parents and siblings and everything, like, they would be able to, you know what's going on and then tell the story, you know what I'm saying? Or, you know, and then be able to notify everybody and stuff. And so that was, you know, great idea, you know, which, I mean, doesn't the patient, you know what I'm saying, is not really worried about trying to notify people. And it's like, you know, they can notify people and make a deal that says, hey, if you want to know what's going on, go to here, you know what I'm saying, or ask this person is your go-to. And so, and that's like, it's just my family would do like posts on, you know, when every time I had scans and stuff, you know, and things like that, what was going on, you know, and it was like, you know, just kind of keep people up to date, what was, you know, happening and everything, which I loved, you know what I'm saying? And so, and now, I mean, I just kind of use that to share like other things of like what I'm doing in general, you know what I'm saying? Or what I'm doing in advocacy. It's just like a second Facebook page, you know, that I have in a sense to kind of share, you know, that's been going since the get-go, you know what I mean? You know, along with my own personal one, but, you know, another avenue, you know, stories and reels. And, you know, it's like this following was like, hey, this is from the beginning of my journey to now. And so, you know, and then now I'm super active on it, where before I wasn't, you know, doing the updates. Now I'm doing the updates, and it's like, you know, it's like that's where I get all my my feels from, you know what I'm saying? Like that's how I know it's my passion. And it's like, that's why I'm like, I don't know how specifically I'm gonna make an income off of this yet, you know what I mean? And or anything, but it was like, all I know is like, man, like after doing all these other things, it was like what I really get enjoyment from, what I really love doing is like share my story, because, you know, there is a huge audience, you know, that is very interested in hearing
well,
it.
it's storytelling with a purpose,
you know, and it's like,
with a very
this is you know,
specific purpose.
This is a real deal. And so like,
Yeah.
hopefully, you know, others, you know, it's like, one, you know, if there's something wrong, you'll get yourself checked, you know, sooner than later, you know what I'm saying? Two, like, you know, if something is wrong, you know what I'm saying, attack it super aggressively, you know what I'm saying, and have a sense of urgency, you know what I'm saying? Thinking and remember being like, okay, the way I'm gonna approach this and fight all this is pretty much like, you know, like building houses, you know, because that's what I did at the time. And I remember thinking there was guys that were building in really good time. They always made bonus. And, you know, the way to do that was you had to do it within a certain time frame. And so it was like, you make a schedule, you stick to the schedule. And if you know, or you find places within the schedule, or you can shorten the thing. And like, I remember somebody telling me once, you know, the longer a house sits, the more problems occur. Well, that's just the same thing that goes on with a lot of things in life. And it's like, you know, especially with something that's real rare and it's kind of unknown. And it's like, do you really want to do the gamble and play the let's wait and find out game? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, are you for real? Like, oh, hell no. And so my attitude was like, no matter what the next plan of action was, it was like, well, what, like, let's do it now. You know, because at the time I was like, you know, sitting there thinking to myself, like, I don't know what the game plan is, but whatever it is, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. And then boom, I can kill this thing. I can get on with my life, and I can go back to, you know, you know. And so it was, you know, that was the kind of the thing. And so as I learned more and kind of you know, everything shifted, it was kind of like, well, you know, I don't know what a lot of this other stuff's going to look like, but the whole point about like, I'm still, you know, boom, boom, boom. I'm, you know, let's do it. Let's do it. It's like, you know, if we're planning a treatment, explain to me why we have to wait that long, you know?
Right.
You know, if it comes down to like, you know, it's like so-and-so's not available. Well, let's like figure out a way to make them available. I mean, dude, when I had my first appointment with, Texas Oncology, and I met with them, because remember, I get all this news and everything, it's official on a Friday and stuff. And and my very first appointment when I got, done with the surgeon that called me and told me my news was I got on the phone to make an appointment with Texas Oncology, and being on a Friday, they got me in for the very first appointment on that Tuesday morning. Monday was already like a done deal, so it was like, but very first thing on Tuesday morning and stuff. And so they allowed all my friends, or not all my, but all my immediate family. I had 4 people with me, you know what I'm saying? And made it, chairs and everything. And they kind of gave me a layout, but after going through everything, it was like, you're going to need, a PET scan, you know what I'm saying, to see anywhere else throughout your body. We know you just had this one surgery, and then we know you have this, what you thought was a hemorrhoid, but yeah, it's a tumor like on the rim of your rectum of, the exterior, of your, on your bottom and stuff. So it was like, okay. And so, when can you do me? They got me in the very next morning. Okay. At their other location, on 15th Street. And it wasn't just before, necessarily like first appointment in the morning. They got me in like, and I was able to get in the building and get started before the place even opened. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how early, you know what I'm saying? Like, they hooked me up. And because sense of urgency, and I remember thinking from the get-go, I was like, dude, this is hardcore. This is serious. Sense of urgency is immediate, And so like, no, like it's, no matter, like, I don't care what it is, like, well, let's do it now. Like today. Oh yeah. You if they don't say today, you say today. If they don't say today, you say tomorrow, and then like, wow, you pound it in there. So, appointment scans, results, just infusions, blood, whatever, you know what I'm saying? If you're not just thankfully, I mean, they were said, pretty much immediately, they referred me down to MD Anderson and all that and stuff, to go see, specialists because, of how the rarity was. And they're just, we're in Dallas, they're in Houston. So, it's a drive, we get a hotel, it's all good. But dude, like, if it wasn't for them at the get-go to be like sense of urgency. And so that's how I approached it. Like I was building houses. And so, and I was aggressive because it was like, you have to be, it's like, dude, I'm the one that's, the paying customer here, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's go, you know what I'm saying? I'm the boss, you know what I'm saying? So the whole practice in medicine is thing, it's like, dude, well, if I'm going to pay you to practice on me, like, you know what I'm saying? We need to be in a partnership, you know what I mean? Like, this needs to be more of like in a unison, you know what I'm saying? Rather than, you being just a doctor, me being a patient and just listening to you and going, all right, well, it's whatever you say, doc, because, like, you just, if you're comfortable and, with whatever it is they're telling you, but, with such a rare disease, dude, like mucosal melanoma, or specifically anorectal, you know what I mean? Because it's even more rare, like 50% of all mucosal melanoma is like sinonasal, you know what I'm saying? It's somewhere up in the head, or somewhere up here, you know what I mean? It could be sinonasal, it could be a heart valve, up here. But the other 50% is split up between, anorectal and like vagina or vulva, you know what I mean? And out of that, for some reason, especially, I mean, I don't know for what, but, when it starts down there, it's more aggressive to spread everywhere, so, I mean, once it gets in your lymph nodes, and like, even though you might've got, done surgery on all your lymph nodes, like I did, I mean, freaking things are sneaky creepy, you know what I mean? Like, they're already been spread through your body. That was my thing, dude. And so, once I had them surgeries, and did radiation, and I was like, cool, it never came back to my rectum again, or especially on the rim of it, that was all back to normal after a while. But, dude, that's when it went to my lungs and all these other parts of my body. And I was like, holy shit, damn, well,
Yeah,
like, what is, like,
that's a
first
battle,
of all,
man.
this thing is mega aggressive. It's very sneaky. Just because you cut it out, you know what I'm saying? It don't mean
Like,
nothing.
I
If
don't
it's
come
once it's in your lymph
across-
nodes and it's metastatic, bro, you're at war. You know what I'm
I'll
saying?
put it this way: I've never come across in my daily experience as a stage 4 survivor.
Well, so
You
check it out. Here's the thing: is most people that are stage 4, are literally because the cancer, it's from the inside out and it's all your organs and stuff. And so, I for about a year, dude, from the time, no, it was a year because I figured I learned that I had my metastasis at the end of November in 2018, right? And then in the first week or so of December of 2018 is when I actually started realizing I was having pains from it, and then that's when I got put on the comfort pack worth of pain meds, and I started wearing a fentanyl patch, and I had my script of 240 hydrocodone a month, which meant I could eat like my 8 a day, and I had hydromorphone if I needed it for breakthrough, and I had my cannabis capsules if I needed that, like.
You were on a fentanyl patch and hydrocodone.
Oh yeah, and so well, the thing
That
was, so
doesn't
check
say
this
how
out.
painful it was.
It was bad because when I first, when I first realized I had pains, dude, at first I thought I was having a heart attack, bro. I shit you not, dude. It was nuts. I was at work and I remember thinking to myself, like, oh my God, like this, and I didn't even like correlate or even think it had anything to do with, the tumors and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, because even though the scans were read to me and were shown, be like, hey, this is what you got, here's what's going on. Like, I couldn't feel it, and when I looked in the mirror, I couldn't tell it. When people looked at me, like, they wouldn't know unless I said something to them, but it was like, no, like, I got stage 4 metastatic malignant melanoma, it's all over inside, and I'm walking around, I'm doing whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to the gun range, like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, like, whatever. But I got, I just became functional and like it, wearing the fentanyl patch and eating all those hydrocodone. It was like, it didn't like debilitate me and like make me like a non-functional person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I had many injuries before, like growing up and getting older, so I've had pain meds before. So I kind of knew how they felt, you know what I mean? So I wasn't, but I gradually, I got, into, really kind of figuring out the rhythm of like, like what it worked for me. And so I had to figure out, okay, how much can I take to where I stay ahead of the pain, because once you get behind it, you're always chasing it. So if you're ahead of it, you know what I mean? And so that was one of the main things that the patch did, and I started off, with the 25 milligram, and by the, over a year period, by the time I got into the, being hospital for the lives for the till, it was up to a 75. But those you wear every 3 days, and then you switch them out. You know what I'm saying? Every 3 days, and it's a slow, gradual deal. And then with the hydrocodones, I had the 10 325s, and you could take up to 8 of those a day because of the Tylenol content that's in it. You don't want to take more than that because that could be bad on your liver, your organs, and stuff like that. So you want to be careful in that sense. And so, and then they gave me the hydromorphone, which was for what they call breakthrough pain. And they said there was no limit on the amount you could take of those. They just make you fall asleep and stuff. And so, but that, it was after you've already had your max of everything else. And then, you just take that and stuff, and crash out. So it was like, damn, it must be real bad. So, I mean, I literally never used that because I wasn't trying just to fall asleep all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I got, real good at, eating the hydrocodone. And with that, I got a certain sense of, of energy, I guess, you know what I mean? Like, I could do whatever. And at the same time, like, it also, mentally, you know what I'm saying? It was one of those, like, it was like a 2-for-1 for me. I was mentally and physically blocking the pain, what was going on, you know what I'm saying? And doing that. And so, and I just made sure I stayed ahead of the pain. And so, literally it wasn't until I, about a year after the clinical trial, and I realized, and all the scans that had proved, that, hey, I did have a complete metabolic response. Everything's good. You know what I'm saying? That I started coming off the patch, you know what I mean? And then I started weaning down the amount of hydrocodone and everything. And I still once in a while struggle with, the amount of hydrocodone I use and everything. But the pains that I went through, they are real, and the beatdown that my body went through is real. I mean, like, I've many conversations with, all of that, but there's no real comparisons really, when you think about all the different treatment you go through within 18 months prior to getting my till, you know what I mean? It's intense, you have all this different radiation, and all these, targeted radiation, high dose, low dose throughout your body in these different spots that beats you up, the different immunotherapies, and when I think about it, it was like, I only had, I did the Ipi-Nivo combo, and I know you're not real informed with all the different immunotherapies, it doesn't matter, but just imagine this, dude, it's really only designed, bro, for people to take up to like 4 doses of it. You know what I'm saying? And that's, a lot of the times, if you can get to 4 doses. But when I first started doing it initially, it was, I did 2 doses and I was scanning for something else. And then they realized I had, things were getting out of control. And so we needed to put like, a kind of halt to things at the moment and kind of band-aid it up so we could kind of slow it down. And so we shifted gears to a real hardcore chemo that was gonna, kind of put it in check. And so, we did that. And then once things were good with that, that's when I went back to doing that combo. But instead of, the next one being number 3, we started it at number 1. And so I did it 4 more times, and then in between that, I had done a different dose of just a single agent, of another dose called Keytruda. And so I ended up doing that, and then I ended up getting the colitis, and then I did 1 more dose of Keytruda, after I had recovered from the colitis, and I had done, more chemotherapy prior to getting into the TILs. So altogether, I'd done 2 doses of Keytruda and 6 doses of the Ipi-Nivo combo. And so, when you look at that, and then, the different surgeries I had, and just, going in, I was thinking, I was like, man, within a year, I went under like 5 times, you know what I'm saying, to be put out. And it was just like, man, all the appointments and medical treatment and immunotherapy and chemotherapy and radiation and surgeries and all this stuff, that goes down on my body, and everything, and like, depleting your muscle mass, you know what I'm saying, and having to try to, all these sores and pains. It was like, nobody can tell you how that's going to feel, what that's going to be like, because, but it's just like, man, like, it's going to hurt, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just in a zone of trying to figure out how to manage like good health, stretching and doing whatever, you know what I'm saying? Eating well, you know what I mean? Making good habits, you know what I mean? Getting to the point where it's like, I mean, I'm figuring out how to just, manage and live with like my pains, and just, just figure out, never to be on any kind of pain meds or any kind of extra medication. I do have to be on a thyroid medication, because early on that, it took that out to where now I have to be on a it's Synthroid or levothyroxine, like it's, and that's real important too, you know what I mean? Because if you don't have that in balance, your whole metabolism's, all whack. And so that can affect all kinds of different things, but, you want your levels to be like right in the middle, you know what I mean? And so, if they're just right on the edge, you know what I mean? It's not really exactly where they want to be. And so I eventually got my levels where they need to be. And it's like, well, I know I have to take that, but if, that's literally the only thing I want to be on, you know what I mean? I quit drinking coffee creamer that was flavored coffee creamer. I remember telling you that, because the kind I was drinking, I'm not gonna blast them, but dude, it's banned in many countries. And it was just like other kind of healthy habit thing, and all the different kind of fast food and processed foods and the easy stuff, for me. And it was just like, I remember me and you, I think this was when we were living together at our house in Frisco. This would have been 2006 to 8, maybe. I think that's when we lived together, right? Yeah. So I think I got Thanksgiving pictures from that year, when you had the long hair.
Good times. Good times.
And stuff. I had short hair, you had long. Now it's
2006. 2006. Yeah.
And then where was I going with that? Oh yeah. Man, there's a big old storm. Like, I don't know if you could hear it in the background or at all, dude. But it started just getting crazy.
Nice.
But
Texas thunderstorms. Oh, my iPad's like 3%. It's about to die. Just FYI.
Man, so that's thing. Anyways, all the beat down to the body, dude. It was like, the whole goal is like, so for future metastatic melanoma patients, or anybody that's trying to go through this and stuff, and instead of having to do all these other treatments to try to figure out maybe if it works, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's, maybe having one failed treatment and then you do TILs, and so if that's what you got to do and then do TILs, do it, because all the different things that you put your body through, you know what I mean? It's, the whole thing is think also, you want to believe that you're going to make it. And then, you want to have a quality of life, you know what I'm saying? For the longevity, you know what I'm saying? And so
having seen you deal with what you dealt with and then seeing TILs come along and just change it all for you. If I were in your shoes, the first thing I'd be going like, are you going to give me TILs? Are you going to let me try TILs? If I was in your shoes, that's all I know to ask at this point in human history, my life. You know what I mean? I'd be like,
well,
so you know
the
what
thing and it's sad because, melanoma is unfortunately the cancer that gave cancers the bad, name. And like, that was, I think it's Dr. Atkins said this. Anyways, dude, and that's the thing is, in a melanoma research is what leads like the cancer world, for the thing is I'm saying like TILs in itself, well, not only for my cancer, but like I said, like a plethora of other cancers, you go look at their platform and all their different trials and things they got going on. Like, dude, it's crazy. Like, it's,
it would be the first thing out of my mouth right now if I was in your shoes.
And it's in my mind,
when do I get on that?
You want to be healthy, like, as soon, you want to be at like the healthiest you can, and if I could go back and I was I was so clinically declined, dude. I know there's probably other people with more, that maybe have more metastasis going into the TILS program. But from what I asked my doc, and she said, in terms of people, as much having the amount of metastasis plus the clinical declination, that I was pretty much up there, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, the toxicity by going through the program, it's pretty tough and it takes a toll on people. But the healthier you are going into it, I guess, because like I said, it brings your immune system down to zero and all this and that, when you get the IL-2, it gave me some real intense rigors, which are real painful, really painful. Like I'll have to do a whole nother episode on that. But
timeline wise, your experience with that, it kind of brought it everything else to an end, right? Like, had you known to just get to the TILs right away?
The thing was, so yeah, check it out. Like, if there would have been somebody that would approach me like almost immediately, and I would have, I've thought about this now, because when I first got diagnosed, it was, I actually physically had 2 tumors, and that's the minute that the whole process is you have to have a minimum of 2 tumors. You have 1 to extract, and you have to have 1 to monitor. You know what I'm saying? So I had the one on the rim of my rectum, and then I had the lymph node, and they could have, you know what I mean? And the one in my lymph node, that's actually, it grew back, you know what I'm saying? And that's literally the tumor that they used when I actually did my TIL, you know what I mean? And it was huge. And so it was good, but that's where you want to, pull the tumor from, because if they would have pulled it from the one on my rectum, there would have been a possible chance of maybe, bacterial infection into the sample. I know another
interesting.
I know another mucosal melanoma, badass, my Mela homie, Bev Johnson, what I'm saying, she's got her primary tumors in her vagina, dude, and she went in for the TIL process twice. And the first time their extraction, it's the same first happened, bacteria grew. The second time they took extra precautions, for the extraction and everything, but it still came back with bacteria. So it was like, there was those areas, like from the primary, actually in the mucus part of the membrane, are probably not your best samples to pull for TIL. Like, and so, once you have a metastasis and it's in a lymph node or somewhere else, you know what I mean? Boom, that's the best.
I feel like if the challenge is, I mean, I'm by no means an expert at this stuff, but I think I understand technology enough that if you're at that point, I feel like one day, I can't tell you how long, I feel like they would, that'll be something that is fine tuned eventually if the TILs continues to be refined and evolved. I feel like that's something down the road. in a
Yeah,
third or
everybody's
fourth
working on a
generation
program.
version of this, in a third or fourth generation of this, I feel like the bacteria thing is something they could be honing in on in a later generation.
You know, I mean, like there's a lot of pharma companies, you know, are doing cell therapy and they have another till programs. I mean, you know, it's not like, you know,
Right. There's a lot of people race.
Yeah.
It's a space race. It's the space race for the medical world, you know.
I mean, but it's
to
what
figure out who
it's
beats
doing
this
though, when it
first.
all comes down to, and I would love to meet this dude, this cat that, you know, you got to see this documentary on Apple Plus, bro. It's about Jim Allison, and you know he's down at MD Anderson now, but he's the dude that like you know came up with like, you know, immunotherapy or well cell therapy in the terms of you know, that using your own immune system to fight, you know, cancer. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, because before it was all traditional like chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. You know what I'm saying? But he's like the godfather of like all that. You know what I mean? Like,
that's amazing.
Like,
it's the people you need on the front line.
I mean, dude, like, you know, I need to reach out. I need to see if I can put him on the gala invite list. That's what I need to do. I need to reach out
There
to
you go.
MRF and be like, do you know this guy? Can you invite him? You know, like MD Anderson, you know, I spent like the majority of my time doing all my treatment there, you know, and I know that I've wrote like my survivor story, them like probably more than once or twice. But they're like the only people that hasn't like, you know, republished it, I don't think, you know, like Aim at Melanoma did one, the Melanoma Research Foundation did mine, the Melanoma Research Alliance did mine. You know, I reached out to the NIH and they couldn't do mine because, you know, it's a clinical trial, but they did refer me to the White House moonshot program. And what you go do is you go there and you do a video where you speak in there and you tell your story, which, you know, it's actually, I still need to do that. I kept on thinking, I was like, oh man, you know, I need to be all like looking fresh and, you know, have it polished, you know, when I say it, but I was like, nah, I just need to get on and do it, you know?
Yeah.
But where you go and you share your cancer story, you know what I'm saying? And so, and especially, you know, first, you know, they have, you know, be a melanoma, you know what I'm saying? So, but I mean, so I try to encourage anybody, you know, and especially this is to the mucosal melanoma, you know, people's, you know what I'm saying? Like share your story, you know, like publicly, you know what I'm saying? In as many forms as you can, you know, there's different foundations, different, you know, articles and places, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, there's many different places, you know what I'm saying? You know, not just,
well, and from my
melanoma
position,
survivor,
if I
you know,
meet a colleague or a friend that is saying they're being told that they might have cancer, the first thing I think of is, well, I have a friend that I want you to meet. And I think you should start there because this person has done all the research you're probably about to do, and talking to them first can save you time.
I had a buddy, dude, that I'd known for a really long time. Like I met when I used to work at the Glen Eagles back in the day. And we've always just kind of stayed in touch, and he had hit me up. I remember I was living at my mom's house. I think this was like in January 2019 or something like that. And he messaged me, and I called him, and we talked and everything. And he had just got diagnosed with not I don't think it was colon cancer, but it's what's that other I don't know. It was, oh man, God, I feel horrible right now because I don't remember the specific cancer, but it was a bad one, and he was really scared, dude. And he was just like, man, like he was telling me, you know, but watching, you know, the posts that were, you know, like seeing how I was kind of going through it, my kind of attitude about it, you know, was like kind of inspiring, I guess, in a sense. And he went through all his treatment. He's on the other side. He's been scanning clean for a while, and he's all good and stuff. But I remember just talking to him. It was one of the first times I remember thinking, I was like, you know, it was like that feel good feeling going like, okay, like, you know, me just, you know, by sharing, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm helping somebody else, you know what I'm saying? So even though you don't hit like, it's the reach, you know what I mean? And so, but yeah, dude, it felt good, you know what I'm saying? Cause you know, like loneliness, man, it could be a bad thing, dude, you know, And like, man, the whole loneliness, dude, I could make a whole nother episode on that, dude. Like my whole recovery was like, and you know what I'm
Especially,
saying?
I imagine you
Is-
don't really like people think about loneliness and they talk about it, but I imagine you don't really analyze the notion of loneliness until you're going through a medical thing like that, where like, yes, I've maybe pondered the notion of loneliness before, but never at this magnitude. And that is the benefit of the groups and the chats and the things you run to alleviate that in a world, like to create a community, a bubble where people do understand all the ins and outs of it is valuable. And you just said it's because of the loneliness thing. And if people know there's a place to go talk and be open about the stuff they're going through that's hardcore, that the person who hasn't been through it is just not going to be as receptive as an audience. You know what I mean? Is not going to be like, they can sit there and nod their head and say, damn, and all this kind of stuff. And they can mean it. I'm sure they do. But at the same time, no one's going to understand that person's situation better than someone who's actually gone through it like yourself, and it's creating that community is extremely valuable for that part. And this gets back to the recovery side of all of it. Okay, so you've managed to hit all the things right in the battle, and now there's this whole new chapter of recovery, and loneliness is a part of that, and dealing with the trauma from your pain and all those things, and being around people who view you as a Superman winner and everything, unstoppable, but still it's like you don't know what the cost of that was, and how I have to operate and my energy levels now, and all that kind of stuff, and
it's crazy because imagine you do your job so well that and then you try to go back and explain it like, well, the whole imagine how high you can fly when you feel like Superman, and that's what I was doing. And so when I try to go back and explain, like, I remember being told specifically about a couple of people's, they were like, well, up into the point, until I left, the home building industry, they're like, Chris, you were doing so well. You know what I mean? Like, you had gotten because when I got my new job, I had gotten a raise in salary and this and that. And like, I had went and purchased a new vehicle, and stuff, but, the financial thing, and it was like, I was doing so well, but at the same time, like, one of the things that had kind of gotten me through a lot of the stuff was, a lot of those pain meds I was taking. And as I like came off of the patch and then I started reducing the amount of hydrocodone, I don't know if it was a detox thing or whatever it was, you know what I'm saying? But it was just kind of like, it was like, it was like, if that was the definition of doing well, I was like, well, that's all great, but